I love cooking. So I thought that while cooking, maybe I'll have fun, I'll have joy. They were not giving me a cooking position. They were like, we have a dishwashing position. I was like, dishwashing? Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Weekly Vasl. I am your host, Ahad, here with my co host, Mudassir. Mudassir, how are you doing?
I'm really good.
How is the weather back in Pakistan? Because I called my mom today and she told me it's very, very warm.
It's very, very cold.
Warm, warm.
Oh yeah, it's really warm. And I have this bad habit of forgetting how the weather was in that particular month. So I was of the opinion that November used to be cold, but it's really hot. Like it's the June, July hot.
It's shocking because it should have been cold because that's what the winter is also about shawls and chais and sitting outside playing cards. But
Yeah.
apparently, it doesn't sound like that anymore.
Apparently, this winter is supposed to be quite colder than before, so I'm excited about that. But one thing, because I promised you to talk about it in the podcast, which has changed, is that Ahad doesn't have a smartphone and he uses that as an excuse to be down the rankings in the Fitbit. So I've been winning for like the last month or so.
Yes, that's month and a half at least. Yes, indeed. But now I'm back. This last week was 15,000 steps a day. So you bye bye to your streak. I'm gonna beat you
Okay,
quite
I've done
easily.
16,000 yesterday, so
Every day, every
that's
day.
some chance. No, no, no.
Exactly. But I do
Yesterday.
it. I do it every day. So don't worry. Enjoy your rise. You're like Tottenham right now, right? You're top of the league, but you know you're gonna come down anyways. So, but
I like
anyways,
how you're self-aware about your team and self-aware about your life.
right now at the moment of our conversation, they're struggling with 10 men against Chelsea. So when this conversation becomes finishes, then I'm really excited to see what is the result. But
Yeah.
let us get into the topic, right? So today we're going to be discussing failure and how to fail at life. Now, why do I say how to fail at life? Is because I was watching this documentary about Beckham, right? And the story is amazing. You know, like any other story, it's a redemption arc. It's the Hercules that you're a kid from a working class family and you found success, and then there was some trouble in Manchester United, and there was trouble in media, and then you go to your lowest point in life, and then you come back up and you're a resounding success. Now, what I don't like about those stories, they're amazing, but they're always hindsighted, right? It's like you are a successful person and you're now telling us, oh, look, I failed in life. It's very easy to talk about failure when you have become successful. But what about those people who fail? As you said when we were about to start this podcast, 99 or 95% of people actually will never become Beckham or Steve Jobs or something like that. So they're going to live mediocre or contentful lives. And where is the success and the failure in that? So I want to talk about those today. So Mudassir, I want you to be comfortable with me and be open to sharing your failures, professional, personal, whatever, so that we can normalize failing because we are so scared of accepting that, yeah, we screwed up and this was not a good bet that we feel like it's what do you say? It's a part of you. It's not what you did, it's who you are as a person. Oh, I'm a failure. Not I failed my business or my business failed. No, I'm a failure. But that's not true. So do you want to go first or do you want me to tell one of my stories?
I don't mind starting. I think I would use your example to start things off. The movies that we watch or the stories that we hear. The problem is these stories have an end. But what the difference in our lives is maybe we make some short-term goals, we make some long-term goals. At a certain point, we might achieve them or we might fail, as a lot of people do. But the story doesn't end there. There is a lot more to come. Obviously, you don't know what comes at you and how the life is afterwards. But you cannot just plan for certain goals and your life doesn't stop there. So, um, yeah. So, if you want to start with me or with my life, I think going into my professional life, I was super confused. I thought I would want a career in finance, and I just wanted it because I was good at it. So I kept pursuing it. I I did pretty good at my university and the finance courses that I had. I did my CFA aside from that. But after that, I realized, and again, I applied to a lot of jobs and I was rejected from a lot of jobs. But then I realized maybe I'm just doing it because I thought I was good at it. Again, right now, I wouldn't say that I have found what I'm really good at or I've figured it all out, but I was willing enough to forgive myself and say maybe that's not what I wanted. And even though I wouldn't say that I've found my peace with what I'm doing at life, but at least at this point, I do realize that it's not an ending point. Maybe I still need to figure this out. And a lot of people at my age, which is the late 20s, are still confused. So just knowing that you're not the only one that is failing and not being super hooked into these stories or movies, sometimes it's important to take a step back, like I keep saying, and maybe reevaluate where you are, is where I am.
No, I completely agree with you just what you said about looking at these stories, because if you notice amongst our friend group as well, we talk about getting rich a lot. And what confuses me a lot is, why do we focus so much on getting rich? Why is that the end goal of life, right? Like, we have to be rich in order to be happy. We have to be successful. It has to be either a job title or a lot of money that you can buy whatever you want, or some reputational success that translates into some value that you have. Why is it not okay to just be a person who's hustling, who's trying, and you have much more exposure than a person who might have just landed with a silver spoon, or might have just even struck success in this first go, right? So a good example would be how Beckham did. At the age of 15, he went into football, into Manchester United, and then it was just that, football, and then all the money he had in his life, and through that he became whatever he wanted to become. So can you argue that, okay, did he really went through failures, that experience, or did he learn from trying a lot of things, compared to a struggling entrepreneur who tries like five different things, fails at them, and the sixth one maybe works, or the sixth one is just works enough that he just pays the bills and he's still hustling and struggling? Why I'm curious about this is because in the American society, it's celebrated to be successful and to be rich, and the American dream, as they call it, right? But there's a lot of failures and a lot of stories that happen in the back that people just somehow try to ignore, or they just try to not talk about it, like how you are not doing right now something with with the studies that you did almost, what, 5 7 years of your life after high school, right? So
Yeah,
imagine how would that feel in hindsight. I could have done something better. I could have done some entrepreneurship courses. If I needed to go into an entrepreneurship, I would have been a much better entrepreneur now. But did accounting for 5 7 years, and then now I'm not doing anything related to accounting.
yeah.
It itches. But should it itch? That is the question. Should it bother you?
I mean, I wouldn't say it shouldn't completely bother you. It should bother you to the point where it doesn't become toxic for yourself. Like you need a bit of something that keeps you going. I get that part, but because of what the exposure we have and so many examples we see around, like people doing successful again, this is a very cliche thing, but I think it's very important because in real life, your graph isn't supposed to be the typical graph where you're going through your lows and eventually you hit your high and then it keeps going up. It is it can be a lot of lows, a little bit of high, and then a lot of lows. So you never know how the graph of your life would be. So again, it is different for a lot of people, and some people really want the big long term goals. But for me, for example, I keep mentioning my weight goals, and again, I'm someone who's super insecure about how I look, or especially about my weight. And I've gained a tremendous amount of weight. Like I've gained 20, 25 kgs in like 6, 7 months, so which is, I know, a lot. But um, in the last year or year and a half ago, I realized that when I started doing everything in moderation and started celebrating those small goals, like when I lost like 6 or 7 kgs, I hadn't bought any T-shirt or any pair of clothing for like a year or so. So I realized that when I reached that goal, and I didn't make a super heavy goal for like maybe I would go to the gym for like a year or keep going there again and again. I just wanted to be at a certain weight limit. And even now, I know I don't stick to my cheat days. There are times when I have multiple cheat days, but I try to reward myself and try to do it in a moderation to the point where I am happy, but I'm somehow still maintaining that weight. And because I am in that weight range, I'm more than happy to keep buying my clothes, and I'm much more comfortable than I used to be a year and a half ago.
No, I understand. Weight reminds me that I'm not really going well. So that could be the story that I would like to share with you. That I also feel very insecure about my body, and I don't know why. Because society, I don't think so. I never thought it was external. It just doesn't feel nice for you. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you just feel annoyed at yourself. You're like, what is this? And I go out, people don't say to me, anyone who's healthy or not, it just bothers me. So I try these fad diets that you used to try, and I haven't found moderation that you have yet. So I'm still in the phase of Anwar maybe a few years ago, who was doing all of these fad diets maybe to just get quickly lose weight so that you could reach that one goal and then life will be okay, right? As you were saying, like there is no end goal to life, right? It is a journey that keeps going on until you not really, if you cannot really enjoy the journey and you look after the destination all the time, when you reach the destination you're gonna fall back again. So when I reached my goal of 75 kilos back in 2017-16, when me, Faraz, Soas, everyone used to do these detox diets, we were very happy, but then we would gain it back like this. So I would be 75.
Yeah.
It was the first time in my life I saw abs on my body, and I was like, okay, this looks amazing. But then I was like, oh, it's so easy, I'll just eat everything I want for 2 months and then go on this diet for 1 month and I'll be back to normal. And that of course wasn't sustainable. At a certain point the diet just stopped working. I was doing it for a month or 3 weeks, eating just plain boiled food, but my body just refused to drop weight anymore. They were like, you know what, we found you out, no more this, no more that. So right now, I was happy. I was hitting 89. I was 100 years ago, and I was hitting 89, and then my mom showed up, and I also have a 3 month daughter at home, and life was also happening. All of this was so much that I was like, you know what, mom's here, let's celebrate. I went and I bought a pint of ice cream and I ate it myself, and they were like, "Who are you celebrating with if you're eating it alone? What is happening here?" And I was like, "I'm just celebrating that my mom is here." Right? So through all of that, I became 96 now. So again, back to my almost my old weight, and now again I'm regretting it, and I'm like, "Ah, this is annoying," and now I have to start again. But the only thing that I've learned through all of these things, as you said, because in failure you learn a lot in life. So only thing that I've learned is I'm coming close to what you said about moderation. Because I refuse to believe in moderation. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I love food too much to be moderating it, right? It's like my love. I want to eat all the time. I want to enjoy it, but I want to work out also all the time so that I can enjoy my food. That was always my justification for eating a lot. And I watched this YouTube video of one of these very famous actors who said because of some medical complication, he had to revisit his dietary choices in life. And he was telling me something I was refusing to believe. He was saying that, oh, now after eating clean for so long, I look at a hamburger and I feel like throwing up. When I eat a hamburger, I cannot finish it. I eat half and I feel like disgusted inside. I'm like, I don't believe you. It's impossible to not like a burger. It's impossible. But in October, me and my wife went on this no takeout diet for 1 month. Well, not 1 month, 17 days till my mom showed up. We were on this no takeout diet. I'm not joking, but we used to eat 4 times a week outside. All right. To go from that to zero and eating at home all the time was a big improvement. But by the 16th of October, my wife had a wedding to go to. So she said, you just order out for yourself. I wasn't excited. I was a bit sad. I was like, oh, I don't want to eat out only because the streak was going on. And when I ordered my favorite chicken, I couldn't finish it. It was just too greasy here. I was like, what the hell is happening? And then I realized this moderation does exist. It's just that we're so
Yeah.
used to eating junk that we're having junk withdrawal, just like we have sugar withdrawal. Once you pass the threshold of a week
Absolutely.
or two, after that, it just becomes like, I don't feel like it. So that is my failure story. Now, what do you think about it?
I think I can completely relate to that, and I completely agree with it. So I've done a lot of diets. Like I've been to the ketogenic diet. I've done intermittent fasting. I think you've done that a
I
lot
still
as
do.
well,
I still do.
probably
That
as I
become a
hear it
lifestyle
as well.
choice.
Yeah, I mean intermittent can be a lifestyle choice, but the problem is, especially for someone who's living in Pakistan, where it's not like the weekend is only the time you socialize and go out, stuff like that. So when you're when you're going out a lot, and there are multiple opportunities, so it's. I mean, it's not just about going out. Like you'll be having the kind of food that you're getting. I mean, I feel privileged that we have this facility that the food gets cooked at our home, and we do have we get the homemade food 2 times a day, which I know it's a privilege. But
It's
the thing is,
jealousy. It's jealousy because I have to cook my food 3 times a day here, and that's one of the reasons we order out. And yet in Pakistan, we used to have food at home, and we used to choose to eat out. Now it baffles me when I think back to
yeah,
2019. I was like, why was I eating out when my mom was making so much effort to make food at home? And in some houses, you don't even have a mom making food; you have help making food. That makes it even
yeah,
more guilty. That, oh my god, like you're paying someone to make food for you, and you're still not eating
yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I didn't. I mean, I still stopped myself from going or eating out regularly. But even now, like I do have 1 or 2 days where I decide to eat out, and I don't care what we're going to eat. It could be pizza, it could be pasta, it could be anything. So whatever my friends are ordering, or if it's a plan with my family, I'll go out, I'll eat it. But the rest of the days, I'll just eat what's cooked at home. And what I just did was I just cut on the junk food. Initially, it was very hard. Like there are a couple of things that I regularly do. One of them is that before sleeping, like 3 or 4 hours before, I decide not to eat anything at all. And I cannot stress this enough that how big of a life changer that has been. Like, I guess this is something that bothers me even more. I don't know if it's something about my digestive health or something, but not only helps me lose weight, but it helps me sleep better. When I wake up in the morning, like initially when I start doing it, I have all these thoughts of the food I want to eat or the drinks I want to eat. But as soon as I go to sleep and I wake up, I realize that I wasn't really hungry. It was just that I trained my brain that I would want to eat something at night. And there's all these opportunities like you'll grab a pack of noodles or you order something. There are multiple avenues that you can go to. So I just avoiding that was such a massive difference for me. It helped me cut on all these food. And again, this is something I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts as well, is that when I'm going out or when I'm going at a wedding or something, I would take the food I want to take, but I would just stop after some time. Like I wouldn't fill my plate. I would fill half of it or whatever I think I would want is I'll take half of that and then reassess myself and take some time off. And then I realized that I wasn't that hungry. It was just this, again, that training that
Cycle.
I've done to my brain that wants me to eat more. So it's really a habit and that can be cured.
Yeah, I know, and but that is part of the process, right? Training a habit and learning is like failing again and again because you will fall off the horse. Right? That's what I always keep telling people. You will fall off the horse. It will happen, no matter how much you try. There will be days when you will eat in the night. Sometimes it will happen. Maybe you're out with your friends for too late. Maybe if you watch wrestling like I do, most pay-per-views happen like at 12 or 1 or 2 or 3 in the night. Hey, you're like, I'm bored. I'm watching a 4-hour show. I want to eat something, so you eat something. So it will happen. But for me, what it matters is how long you stay in that failed phase. The quicker you get back on track is the measure of success for me, right? So when
Yeah,
people go off the path and then they just stay off the path, the longer you stay
yeah,
off the path, the more difficult it becomes to come back on. So it's a given, you will get off the path. Every human does. The question is how quickly you get back on. And that's where I think failures are very important because when you hear these stories from people, you go like, oh, that person also fell off the path. That person also fell off the path, but they got back on, and they got back on quicker than I did. But I never got back on because I thought I was such a failure that I never tried it. Right? I tried to build this habit, Anwar, of not eating junk food, but I failed after 2 weeks when my mom arrived. Now I don't want to do it again. It's not for me. But you don't know. You didn't give it time enough because you failed once and you stopped. And that brings me to the next thing. There's this difference between grit and quit, right? So grit is this psychological phenomena that people discuss, that you should be determined to do whatever you want to do, regardless of how much you're failing. You need to push through it. That's where success is. That's the typical hero story we hear, right? Oh my God, I was facing adversity and I kept pushing and then I went through. On the other side, economically, there is this podcast and a book called Freakonomics, in which they are also discussing the concept of quitting. And they say statistically, it's better off that you quit whenever you feel like quitting. You will be better off in terms of the amount of effort you've put in anything, because if you haven't gotten a success yet, there's a chance you might not get it later either, right? So this economist, Steve Levitt, always says, I always advise, if you feel like quitting, quit, because it doesn't matter. Sticking around or not quitting, it in the grander scheme of things, it won't matter. So just quit. So my question to you is, grit versus quit. Which side do you lie on? Why? And again, is there a story that you can share which encompasses these and tells a little bit about your failure? Some other failure this time, a more professional one.
I mean, are you getting specifically at something or?
No, no, no. Just like we talked about lifestyle, right?
Uh,
That's one kind of failure,
yeah,
but more like work kind of
yeah.
failure, job kind of failure, those kind of failures.
Um, I guess. I mean, I still think that I'm trying to figure that out. Like, um, it could be surprising for a lot of people because at my age, again, this is also something I wanted to get at because the kind of people you surround yourself with is also very, very important because often, even if the friends that you hang out with or the acquaintances that you're with, surrounded with, they might not be people which are successful, but they're kind of aiming to be and going towards something. So this is something I realized that, like I said, I still think I'm trying to figure out where, like which path I want to take professionally. But it's something I realized like at this age, it might not be possible to completely change my surroundings, but I realized that the pressure there that I feel because of them isn't really coming from them because this is something which is said a lot that like you think that you're the hero in your life, which you are, but the amount of time you think people spend on worrying about what they want from you or what you are doing in life is absolutely negligible as much as you think about it. So I still feel I'm in the process of learning that art, but it's something that I realized recently, and I'm trying to enforce that upon myself. So for me, I'm trying to learn that and to get ahead and figure that out. But it's also a question that I wanted to throw at you as well, because I think both of us are of the lifestyle kind of thing. Like we'll do things in moderation. I know we get off sometimes, and like you just said that right now you are in that phase where you're not sticking to what you wanted to do. But for the people who are really focused on like long-term goals, or it could be money, or it could be something, a career in sports or in a specific thing, for example, like their entire energy is dedicated towards that. Do you think there is a way to kind of make them realize to take a step back, or is there a way for them to realize that failure is normal and they could handle it?
I think failure is like that very good analogy we used to say in Pakistan, right? It's basically like, the pan is hot, and you tell the person, hey, the pan is hot, but the person will still touch the pan and then be like, oof, yes, you're right, the pan is hot. So you
Yeah.
can look at everyone's failures around you and you can learn from it, but most of the time you will only learn from your own failures when you do it. So people who will be scared to fail will also fail at a certain point in time, or they are failing right now by not doing what they're supposed to do, right? If you give example of people who are not taking the risk, then they are stuck in that limbo area. That's also failure. And most of them would know this because they're like, okay, am I really living or am I just surviving? Right? And that will already tell you your answer. If you don't feel like you're living, if you feel like you're surviving, then you know you need to change something, but you're scared to change something because you're like, I don't want to fail, but you're already failing. So
I think maybe you
you
should.
already,
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. I just think maybe we should redefine what failure is. The word itself has become so cliched. Like not being able to achieve your goal is, I know it's that is a failure, but the connotation we've associated with that word is so huge that I mean, like your goal, if like we keep saying that, and we've said that a lot in this podcast already, but life is not constant. Even if you achieve that, you're back to square one. In fact, if you plan on reaching the top of Mount Everest, at certain point, if even if you do reach, then what? Your life doesn't end there. So maybe you should redefine what failure is, what success is. Maybe try to enjoy those little things in life. I know this has also become very cliched, but actually it is very important when you start celebrating those small successes. And because again, in my at least fitness part of lifestyle, when I started celebrating those small little goals, and I did reward myself, even though that still was in moderation, but that reward really did feel special. And I just reminded myself that because I have achieved it, I I had to reward myself. Obviously, that reward shouldn't be that big that you fall off that cliff
undermine
somehow.
everything.
Yeah. But I also think I want to emphasize on this thing that your goal shouldn't be that far off that like if you start climbing a really tall mountain, the amount of like it's like putting money in one basket. Like we say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That sort of an example. So when you're putting all your energy in one sort of goal, it sometimes becomes very messy. Because if you fall off that cliff, it's going to be really bad for you. So maybe it's important that we lower our expectations or maybe at least divide our goals in life. It could be professional, it could be lifestyle related. But when you put so much energy in one or two specific goals, it can be like really dangerous for you.
Yeah, I like you the words you're using, right? Dangerous and bad, but that also itself tells a story, right? That why is it a problem if I take 2 years of my life to really focus on this and then fail, and then I move on to something else, right? Or I succeed, and then I move on to something else, right? This, as you said, this connotation of failure is the problem. That you're so scared. Basically, when I was hearing you, feel like hedging. You're like, you know what? Like, I want to have different goals in life because, yeah, I might fail here, but then I want to have this as well. I want to have this as well. In reality, you can do whatever you want as long as you just don't stop because life doesn't stop. And I think that's the problem. That's my definition of failing. That it's okay to keep trying and you'll keep failing, but life doesn't stop. So you need to get up and go forward again. Problem is when people fail or get too scared of failing and they stop at life. That's what I mean by surviving, right? You're surviving. I'm not of the belief that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. That's, to be honest, very capitalistic because they just want you to keep going and, like produce and do and do and do. But I also believe in the process of continuous improvement. As a person, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to yourself from yesterday, yourself from the past month, yourself from the past year, and be like, did I learn something? Did I do something that I'm proud of? And that's where the whole thing comes up. If you Mount Everest gives you joy, then go climb it. If you climb Mount Everest and it doesn't give you the joy you thought, that's fine. Park it aside and now try something new. But know that, learn from that. Okay, I climbed Mount Everest and I did not enjoy it. So maybe I need to see what I enjoy, and not just keep jumping in circles and going to places you're not enjoying and don't have a pattern, but be able to learn from everything that you do. I have really realized this feedback element, Mudassir. It's such a beautiful thing. It's like a gift, but we're so afraid of asking for it. We love giving it. You and I both know from our friend circle, we love giving feedback. We love giving criticism. We love telling people what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, because that's a very human thing. You know, you figured it out. But I think the real strength is being able to ask for feedback, because you might think they're going to say something negative about me, But what I think when I ask feedback is like they're going to tell me something that I didn't know. Because if it is something that I did know and it was negative, then I already know this. Then why am I scared of it? But if it's something that I don't know, that's great. I have something more interesting to look after, something more new to look at, something better to improve about myself to become more valuable as a person to the people around me. Don't go around asking feedback from random people. Of course, that's pointless. And also, feedback will always be very subjective. When we launched the Vasl website, right? Uh, I asked feedback from like 10 people. All 10 out of 10, I think 5 of them echoed a very similar thing about certain elements, but all 10 were very diverse responses. So I was not like just sifting through every response. I took the aggregate and I was like, okay, these are the major themes. I'd give that feedback to the team, and can you guys fix it? Can you improve it? These are the feedback I'm getting. That's what I think feedback is. That's why I don't ask one person for feedback, because it's pointless. I ask the people around me everyone's feedback, and I'm like, okay, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then when I hear recurring themes, I'm like, okay, this is something I should improve upon. So why is it a failure? Why do I consider it failing? Why do I consider it negative? So for me, failure and feedback are the same thing in terms of the connotation attached to it. And I feel like you need to change it. It's not negative, it's positive. Failing is positive. At one of my companies I worked at, if you failed at something, like you tried something and it didn't work, there used to be a calendar, as what you just suggested. There used to be a calendar, and if you hit 10, you would go out for dinner. As a team, you would go out for dinner if you failed 10 times. Which team would do that to just highlight your failures like that? But they were one of the happiest teams I've ever worked in. So they're doing something right. And that's the point of today's episode, to make people understand it's okay to fail. So I want to wrap this up, Mudassir, and I want to discuss one final story from each of us about failure. So think about it. Do you have one in your head that you would want to share with us? Or you want me to go first till you think about it?
I think you can go first.
I'll go first. So but I haven't thought about it either, but for me, one of the best stories of failing that I remember is, and this girl also sound privileged, by the way, because we are privileged. We come from a very upper echelon society of Pakistan. But when I moved here, I had no job, right? I just moved here to study and, of course, to be here with my now wife. So I had no game plan. Just came with some money, studies, and just thought I'll figure something out. So when I came here, I was comfortably working at one of the biggest companies in Pakistan in a desk job, 9 to 5, enjoying the air conditioned life, you know. And here, no one was taking me because they didn't care if my bachelor's was from a university in Turkey. They don't know, they don't trust me. So everyone told me, you have to wait till you get your master's. So till then, just do odd jobs. We have some friends of ours who were in Australia who did odd jobs a lot, but we never did odd jobs in Turkey because we were on scholarship and our parents were are upper middle class, so they could support us. And then you go back to Pakistan and you get this very comfortable life where you're earning good money, you can order out, you can do whatever. So I went into this restaurant. I love cooking. So I thought that while cooking, maybe I'll have fun, I'll have joy. They were not giving me a cooking position. They were like, we have a dishwashing position. And I was like, dishwashing? Look at you even laughing yourself because you can't imagine us do dishwashing, right? Because we've never done it before. It's nothing negative about dishwashing. It's just we've never done it before. And I felt the same. And I told my wife, and my wife said, you don't need to do it, but it's a good learning. Again, learning. And I said, you know what? I got this. I will do it. I'm not joking. I quit in 2 days. I quit in 2 days. My body couldn't handle it. I had to. It was a pasta place, and they had woks, and they expected me to clean 20 woks in 5 minutes every hour because there was this one African dude, huge, who was doing it like this, and he was like, "You need to match my pace." I'm like, "No, I cannot. I've never washed a dish in my life." Well, in Turkey, I did, of course, thankfully, or else I would have been a very privileged guy in Pakistan. But I still can't do that. It's shocking. So I'm doing dishwashing. I'm doing this. I go back home. My body's dead. The next day I go. I do it again. I come back home and my body's dead. And I feel guilt inside. I don't know why, but I felt guilt inside. I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense to me. I am a guy, I am young, I'm fit, I do not consider myself that privileged. Why is a job of washing dishes so damn difficult? My wife's family, they're all consoling me. It's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's okay. It happens. And I'm like, but you guys all have done jobs like this. My wife has worked as a saleswoman. Her sister has worked as a newspaper delivering girl. And I'm like, but I've never done something like this. And I feel annoyed, but I somehow couldn't make it happen. I quit, and then I applied to Uber Eats as a rider, and that's what I did for the next 4 months. Learned to be a rider, delivered food here and there. That was a lot of fun. And then after that, before even my master's started, I got lucky and I landed a role as a consultant, like as an analyst in my field of data science. So that's where I got lucky. But I did this for 6 months. It was grueling. And I still remember this day when I quit Vapiano, the pasta place, in 2 days. And I'm still ashamed of it for some reason. So
That's
that
an
is my
interesting.
story.
So I think the story I might want to share would be this is something which actually got me to this content creation sort of thing, which was the Cricket Nama channel that I had. Um, it was after my graduation, and even though this is something I wanted to do for a long, long time, and I actually had started this with a few of my friends. We tried to figure out the logistics of it, the set, and a lot of things were going wrong. So eventually, we we discontinued that idea. But then a friend of mine, which happens to be our friend as well, so us, he kept forcing me that you can do it, and it just happened to be that his goal in life was also something similar, which like he wanted to make this website where he had all these music artists and all sorts of artists and bring them together in this one website sort of a thing. So he was starting that off, and he wanted to have something in his bag. So he pushed me to start off his channel so that he also gets his recognition through it, or just something that adds to his CV and also helps me. So I said, why not? And that's how I got started. And I did the first, it was like 2016, if I'm not wrong. So we did that PSL season, the entire season of it. Initially, he was helping me out, but then I figured out that maybe when he got busy, so I had to take over the camera part of things, the microphone. I had to edit it myself. I learned a lot by it. And it was that point where it was kind of getting very tedious in a way that I was doing the same thing again and again. And even though I was having a lot of fun, because this is something I do even if I'm not like doing it for content creation, because this is something I really enjoy. I was slowing down to an extent, but somehow I landed into this kind of a trial show I had with this TV channel, which is like it wasn't exactly a TV channel, but the digital side of thing, which was still huge at that point. And for some reason, something personal things started happening in my life, and I couldn't go to the eventual the part where it was being recorded. So because I missed that deadline, it was somehow taken off. So even though I did do, it was before I do remember that. It was before the 2019 World Cup. So I did went ahead with the 2019 shows that I did with my YouTube channel. Although I stopped doing it after the World Cup. And initially I was really, really harsh on myself. I was like, I got lazy, and a part of me was also kind of it was hard looking at myself because that was also the time where I was gaining a lot of weight. So when I started editing that video or just looking at myself in those videos, I kind of felt uncomfortable. But now that I do think I've come a long way, although again, like I keep repeating that I have a lot to figure out even now, but I think I'm much more comfortable. Like the fact that I'm doing this podcast or looking back at those shows that I did, I kind of do feel proud of myself. The fact that I did land into such an exciting project was in itself a big achievement, because people do content creation for like years and years and they don't get any recognition at all. But the fact that they watched my videos and found them interesting enough to land me into a World Cup special show, I think I was kind of very honored by it. And this kind of gives me strength that maybe if I do keep trying, there is a path for me as well.
Indeed, indeed. And on that note, I want to end this because I think it's nice. We promised we would not end it on a high note, but somehow both of our failure stories turned out a little bit more on the success side. That, oh, we learned something, we grew out of it. But I think that's the beauty of failing. You might feel like it's a very negative story, but there is always something you learn, right? Either you win, or as they say, right, either you succeed or you learn. There is no failing. But for me, failing is learning. So it doesn't matter what word you choose to fill in the blank. In the end, as humans, all we can do is learn. That's what we've been doing. The whole scientific method, the whole science, natural, social, all of these sciences are just a path to learn something. And now, on that note, I would like to end this podcast and I want to thank you for your time, Melissa.
It's been a pleasure.
Any final words?
I just want to say that at the end of the day, what success is, what failure is driven by society. It's driven by capitalism. It can be whatever you want it to be. So even though you think what my story was, because I presented it in a way that it sounds that I gained success from it, but it could be anything. Even with your failure, if you think you learned, like you said, it's not failure, it's learning. That can be success as well. So it's something you can define yourself. So the connotation that the society or the capitalistic society, I should say, attaches with is easily breakable if you want it to be.
Exactly. And I think that's a wonderful place to leave it. So thank you, everyone else. I've already thanked Anwar, so I'm not going to thank again. Thank everyone else for listening. I hope you learned something today, just like I did. And I will talk to you next week. Bye bye.